What was the best relationship advice you ever got? Never take each other for granted. Show appreciation often. I'm going through a separation/divorce, and this is advice I can swear by. We were both terrible partners to each other, in a vicious cycle of being shitty to each other because the other was shitty, ad infinitum. Never worked on our relationship, took each other for granted. Hopefully, I will have the opportunity to do things better. You know what took me a long-ass time to realize? When I disagreed with anyone, I used to put active internal effort into building up a caricature of the person I was talking to, and apply all the worst intents possible to their motive and position. The problem is I'm stuck with the imaginary person I made up well after the disagreement is over, a whole world full of terrible people I made up just for me. It's so transparent now. I can see how many people fall into the same trap I set for myself. In bad relationships, it's on steroids. I'm almost 30 and in a similar boat, though not because of a romantic relationship but rather my parents. As a kid, I'd get absolutely screamed at almost every day until I was in tears, for years on end. As an adult, I 100% cannot handle any form of conflict, and if I so much as sense the other person is getting irritated at me, I start having nervous tics. Likewise, it has made it almost impossible for me to stand up for myself in any form for fear that the other person will go apeshit on me. Logically, I know most people have better control than this, but some part of me has painted how my parents treated me as a kid onto almost every person I come across. It's F. Ugh, this really sucks. Insecure attachment style homies, raise your hands. Therapy helps a lot. There is no reason to keep score. You are both on the same team. If one, or both, of you starts keeping score with things, it is time to evaluate the state of the relationship and why this is occurring. On a related note, all problems can be solved, but not all problems are worth solving. Similarly, you should always feel like you're doing more than half the work. Partially because this way you know you're not freeloading off of your partner's work, and partially because your partner probably does 100 things a week that you don't see and may not even notice. Simple stuff like wiping out the sink, dusting a surface, etc. Be a steward of your shared spaces so your partner doesn't have to do it all on their own. Discuss life goals, especially kids, and financial habits before you get married. If one person wants 6 kids and the other wants to be childless, that's not going to work. If one person has champagne tastes and spending habits but you as a couple have a boxed wine budget, then that is a problem. More than one marriage has been ended because one spouse is bad with money and refuses to live within their means. Second, on the kids thing. If you disagree, don't push it off as a future issue. It will make it worse. Resentment will build as you know what will inevitably happen. Sure, you can compromise on the amount possibly, but you can't compromise with 0. This is exactly right. I want 3 versus I want 4 can be solved. I'm not sure if I ever want kids versus I've dreamed of being a parent my whole life is a valid reason to break up. The number of people who whistle past this problem only to find it's still there 4 years later is shocking. Be each other's biggest supporter and cheerleader. I went through a job loss during the pandemic, and it was a soul-sucking experience. I remember standing in the garage with my husband, worrying that I'd never be able to get a job that would pay my portion of the bills and other expenses. He told me he was sure I would, but, whatever happens, I got your back. That is a wonderful feeling, knowing that someone has got your back. I hope he feels it from me, too. This just happened to me, and my partner said the same thing. He was like, focus on dealing with this and healing. You don't have to worry about food and shelter, so take your time. He makes me feel like I am never alone taking on the weight of the world, and I am so happy to have him. This is an excellent one. After my sister got in a big fight with her BF, my dad told her relationships require honesty, not cruelty. You don't need to tell your guy that you noticed the 10 pounds he put on and now find him less attractive as a result. He is aware and there is absolutely no reason whatsoever to voice it. Practice active listening to understand each other better. What would active listening look like? Engagement: there isn't a movie in the background and you're not on your phone, this is the thing you're doing right now. Nonverbals: you're nodding, your body posture indicates you're listening and following along, you're making eye contact. Verbals: just because the other person is talking, doesn't mean you're not active. Say small phrases that show them you're listening and enjoy hearing it. Like, "Oh wow, seriously?" Or "Oh good point," or "I see." Stuff like that. Reflection: a lot of people are just dying for their opportunity to talk. If you reflect back to them, it lets them know you're hearing them and you want to know more, and it opens them up more. "That must have made you really mad" is a good reflection. "You must feel heartbroken, I would feel devastated too." Something that labels the feelings they're having, which they may not have done internally yet. "What happened next" is a good door opener to let them know you still want them to talk and you're here to listen. Empathy: chances are someone opened up and talked about something challenging. "I'm so sorry that happened to you" can go a long way in building a connection through empathy. "Wow, this is so much, I don't even know what to say, but thank you for sharing it with me. I'm sure this was hard work as well." You don't need to be coming up with solutions. Saying "I don't even know what to say" is a fine response. A partner is the cherry on top of a cake. The cake is your responsibility. Translation: a good partner can make you happier in life but can never make you happy. It is your own responsibility to have a happy and fulfilling life. The inverse is a little different. A bad partner can ruin your happiness. But it is your own responsibility to not let a bad cherry ruin your cake, not let a bad partner ruin your happiness. Man, I have never heard it put this way, but it's the perfect analogy. My wife truly does make my life better, and when I'm feeling down she picks me up. I feel like a lot of people blame their miserableness on their spouse, when in reality they're just miserable people. Second this. My father's advice to us on our wedding day was similar. You cannot make each other happy, but you can make each other miserable. Also, say thank you more than anything else you say. Communication is the key. Absolutely. It took me years to figure out that pushing stuff down and then letting it blow up is not a great communication style. And then learning to reframe things as my issues rather than my partner's fault has helped solve things even when I'm not entirely to blame. Not worrying about who's right and wrong brings solutions much more quickly. Yeah, that's true. And many conflicts could be prevented. Not relationship advice per se, but something that helped immensely in all future relationships. I used to be a typical nerd, including some of the negative stereotypes associated with that. I was never introverted and got along well with most people, very well with those in my immediate vicinity. One weekend I was at a LARP event with some friends and met a girl who I liked and hit off with. It didn't work out and she started seeing someone else that evening. I must have made a face or something, because she noticed. And gave me this feedback. I was in my own world most of the time, not caring that much about my appearance or the vibes I gave off. Spent most of my time slouched over. She said even though she liked talking to me, my whole demeanor gave off vibes of being somewhat unhappy. In the end, if there are two equally nice and interesting people, why would you choose to spend your time with someone who doesn't even appear to enjoy spending time with himself? It wasn't the most friendly advice, but it stuck, primarily about me being slouched over all the time, which I consciously tried to correct the following years. It worked. I was never unhappy with myself, but I never put in much effort towards other people either, which I changed, and I think it worked out for the better. In the end, a lot of relationship, whether intimate or other, is about effort. If you put an effort into maintaining it, you give significance to it, from the other person's point of view. Sorry, English isn't my first language. You no longer have to tell people English isn't your first language. Everything was great. Also, in English we don't even say things correctly. As long as we can understand what you're trying to say, it's 100% good. If you can't laugh at each other's embarrassing moments, are you even really a couple? I just started dating this girl, it's been about 2 weeks now. Her neck and back were hurting her, so I happily gave her a massage. I had her sit up and I went to put my leg around her and just let out the squeaker of a fart as I pulled my leg up. I'm extremely embarrassed and she looks at me and starts crying, laughing. I mean dying. We both belly laughed for a solid 5 minutes about it. I was so nervous because I fart a lot. Like in my sleep even. She told me that as a couple, that's gonna happen and not to be even remotely embarrassed about it. She's a keeper. Gotta be able to laugh at each other's farts. If you can't let loose around your partner, then who can you? Also gives you a witness for the strange sounding ones. Please like and subscribe for more daily content.